Ladies and gentlemen, firstly, thanks for having me here today. I'm about to introduce you to two superstars of sport. One of them has won Omloop Het Nieuwsblad, one of the biggest classics in Belgium, a couple of stages of the Giro d'Italia, European Gravel Championships, and a few other races, and the other one hasn't. But he has won 10 Grand Prix in Formula One. He's also one of those annoying people that turned his hand to cycling just a few years ago and is already better than most of us that have been doing it for quite some time. So please allow me to introduce you to Tiffany Cromwell and Valtteri Bottas. Welcome. Welcome. Got a myriad of notes here. It's the first time I've seen Tiffany since 2013 I was looking at, because when we very first started GCN, she was very kind and presented a couple of videos for us. I looked back at that video. One of us has aged far better than the other one has. Valtteri and I go way back. We met each other about 25 minutes ago, don't we? We're getting on like a house on fire. I've been practicing my pronunciation and Finnish of your name. Don't know if you can give me a mark out of 10. Valtteri Bottas.
Pretty good. It's I give you 8 for that. So
and
let's see by the end of the Q&A maybe.
Yeah, might get it then. And Tiffany Cromwell.
10 out of 10.
There we go. There we go. I'm going to start at the very beginning of your cycling. Like, we all remember our first time on the bike. So what was yours?
What, racing or just riding?
Just riding a bike.
Riding. It was probably when I was really young. To be honest, I don't actually remember it, but I have pictures of being on a bike when I was, like, as soon as I could walk. You know, it was always in, like, racing wasn't in my family, but, you know, being outside on bikes. Like, I grew up in Australia and, you know, it's just what we did.
Yeah. Did you have a memory of your first time riding a bike?
I do. It's, yeah, I have. It's not a great memory, actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Would you like to expand or not?
I shat myself. Yeah, that honestly is my first memory on the bike, with shorts, playing around. Anyway, let's not go into that, but I started commuting to school and in quite a young age, and always, like, with friends, we would meet up with bikes somewhere in the forest or in the trails, and it was a way of moving around as a kid where I come from.
Not the answer I was expecting,
yeah,
got to say, but a good one nonetheless. What about when you first realised that you had a huge passion for this sport? I mean, Tiffany, it's been your career, it's what you've been working towards your whole life. When was that moment of spark where you were saying, I want to dedicate my life to this?
It took some time. It definitely wasn't love at first sight. So my background was, like, always in sport. I played basketball. That was, like, my love, even though I'm not very tall. So you wouldn't think, but that's what was in the family. Then it was through a talent ID program in Australia where they said, hey, we think you have potential to be a cyclist. So they sent me to the velodrome, gave me a bike with no brakes, said, go ride around this track. And of course, quite daunting, but kind of did it step by step, but I wasn't the best in the group, and, you know, I just did it as something to do. But then it was, you know, my first time on the road, the state championships, I got 3rd, and it was like my first ever podium, and suddenly I was like, oh, cycling, actually, this is kind of fun. And then I started traveling around Australia, and I think it was probably when I made my first Australian team for the Junior Worlds, 2005. That's when I was like, okay, you know, this could potentially be, you know, my lifelong career, and kind of just went from there. But it was like, I was never the strongest, but I was always probably the most persistent, like always there or thereabouts, and just kept, doors open step by step. And then, started to travel around the world and race for different teams, and just always, just try to enjoy it.
Well, it feels like it might have been the right decision made back then. It's been a very long career already. When did you start to get passionate about cycling as opposed to just riding a bike?
Yeah, you know, for my racing career, I started training my physical condition, like, systematically when I was about 13 years old, 14 years old. Like, just wanted to be fit to race cars, and wanted to be so fit that, you know, the fatigue doesn't get you, and then you have more reserve in terms of your mental capacity. So then cycling became part of my training, but I would say on average it was like a cardio training. I would mostly do running, then sometimes I would do it on a bike. So I would say up until I met Tiffany a few years ago, it would be on average once a week. I would get either on the road or on the mountain bike, just for cardio training. But then, Tiff changed my life quite a bit, because I managed to get the insights of a cyclist life managed to get much more of an insight of the teamwork, everything that is involved in cycling as a team and as a sport. I just got a different picture of the whole thing, and I started to ride a bit more initially, wanting to try and keep up with her. That we could train together and actually spend time on the bike, and then it just became more and more addictive.
And you got some nice hookups like Canyon and SRAM, and it made it even more exciting.
Yeah.
I mean, you all know, with cycling, when you feel that you are getting better, and it's just.
Harry wants to ride his bike more than me.
Yeah.
Well, it's a sport that's very easy to get addicted to, isn't it? Yeah. How has it changed you in any way, if it has, as a Formula One driver? Because I know you've always trained extremely hard, at some points too hard. Has cycling changed things in any way in the car?
In the car, I feel great, actually. Obviously, I can't train like a professional cyclist. I can't do the same hours, because still in car racing, when you get into the race week and when you get into the car, you need to be relatively fresh so that your reaction times are good, and you're not tired, and you need to be aware. So I can't train hard up until the race weekend. So I need to kind of back off, and that's when I still feel good in the car. But I've definitely managed to learn my limits. I try to push the training hours when I can, and then I need to back out when I need to.
Taper.
Yeah, exactly.
I think we all would like to know, what was the most rookie mistake you saw Valtteri make on a bike?
Wear undies under his chamois. When I first met him, he used to wear jocks under the bike shorts.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And his setup was terrible. He had a bike one size too big. Like, he had the gear, but, like all of us, you need to start somewhere and then step by step. You get positioned right.
Low socks.
Oh, yeah, short socks.
Now when I look back, no.
Most amateur mistake you've seen Tiffany make driving? No, I'm only joking.
That's probably the whole list.
It's very clear, obviously, with your paths as professional sports people, that you are both incredibly competitive. So how does that work? Does that ever boil over at home, the competitiveness?
Yeah, it doesn't work. It's simple.
Well, no, he's Captain Calm and I'm Captain Not Calm.
Yeah, it's the fire and the ice. So it actually works.
So I get worked up, and then he's like, meh.
We found out we better not to compete against. It's better to be in the same team.
Yeah.
So,
We have in Rattle, we were kind of against each other, and I was having a bad day and he was having a good day. So that motivated me not to get dropped.
Until I fell off in the ditch.
Then he crashed himself.
Yeah.
We've got a race coming up after this. They've said it's a group ride.
Yeah.
It's actually a race.
Every town sign.
Every day is a race.
I listened to a couple of podcasts with you, Valtteri, over the last few days, and on 2 occasions, you said the most important part of being a Formula One driver is patience. So I was going to check with Tiffany if this is actually true or not. Is he a patient man?
Very.
Really? I thought it was just a podcast thing.
Well, if you know, like, certain situations, he's incredibly patient right now.
Yeah, like trying to figure out if I have a job next year or not.
Yes.
It's been dragging on for a bit. And
I'd imagine that would test patience.
I'm patient.
We'll skew things back around to cycling, where obviously it's your profession still, but you've both been heavily involved with things in the background of the sport, organising gravel events in Adelaide and Finland, etc. I know you, Valtteri, have obviously taken a keen interest in the women's part of the sport, especially seeing the opening few Tour de France Femmes avec Zwift. What have been your takeaways from watching those first 2 women's tours in terms of what you think could be done and what you think needs to be done to really grow that side of the sport?
I think it's growing naturally. I think, finally the women's cycling is getting the recognition it's been deserving for such a long time, and it's getting bigger, which is great. Obviously, I'm slightly more biased because I've got somebody I'm supporting here, but still, I think it's exciting racing. It's always good to watch, and the women, they're working as hard as the men, to get to the top and doing exactly the same sacrifices for their careers. So I think I went to the first one for a couple of days, and it actually made me just really happy to see that finally they get this Tour de France Femme with all the big media attention, great crowds, great atmosphere, and I was just really, really pleased. And like I said, I think it will naturally go from there. So I'm really happy to see it's going to the right direction.
Yeah, like I said, it's on the right trajectory, isn't it? And given the length of your career already, Tiffany, you must have seen some huge changes on the women's side of the sport, specifically from when you first turned professional to where the sport is now.
Yeah, 100%. You know, my first international competition was, well, even as a junior, 2006, I raced some elite races. And then since then, you know, back in the day, we had two major teams. It was Cervelo Test Team and Aeroad. And it was like, you could race as an individual and win bike races. Now it's impossible. Like, look at Marianne Vos. I've raced her my entire career, incredible athlete. But in her earlier years, she didn't have the team, yet she won everything. Now she needs a team to win. Like, she wouldn't be able to do what she did back then without having a team around her. But even, you know, from the sponsors coming in, the TV coverage, like when I started, there was no social media. There was zero TV coverage. We relied on the press for our sport to be in the spotlight, and no one could really follow it outside the major events like an Olympics basically, or a World Championships. You know, our biggest race was the Giro, which when you saw how it was run back then, it didn't deserve to be classified as the biggest race, but it was because that's just how it was. And just the whole level of the sport wasn't what it is now, and now we're seeing so much interest. We're seeing, you know, young girls getting inspired by, you know, professional women because they have these role models to look up to. Like when I started, okay, we had some top Australian women, but I didn't really know them. So it's exciting, it's nice, and even, you know, the running of the teams, there's minimum standards, you know, there's a lot more security for us as riders, whereas, you know, when I started, we did it because we loved it. Like, it wasn't for anything else, just because we loved it. And you saw careers are now getting a lot longer because same story, it's like women wanted families, they wanted to actually make money so they could live. Whereas, you know, in the early days, they would retire before they're even 30 just because it was hard. It was really hard.
Yeah, like you said, we've got at least a shop window now where young people or all cycling fans can actually get to know the personalities, which is half of sport, really, isn't it? Having spent some time around Formula One circles, what would you say that cycling, I mean, I'm sure there's lots of things, but what would you say a couple of points that cycling could really learn from Formula One to progress as a sport?
Unity. Like, you know, obviously Formula One is an incredible business. From the top, obviously, you know, it's a huge championship, but then the teams actually benefit from that. Cycling, there's too many parties. You got like ASO, you got the teams, you got all the other race organised, but nobody wants to work together. And I think that really kills the sport in terms of the business model. Like, we obviously have fantastic brands and partners will come into the sport, but then it's like, how do the teams then make money to then keep longevity? How do we get sponsors from outside the industry as well? Because I think that's one thing that cycling really struggles with, whereas F1, you know, you got everybody. And then, you know, like the way the fans can actually interact, you know, they always have like obviously big hospitalities, a lot of times where they can meet the drivers, whereas I feel like sometimes cycling closes its doors a little bit. Like, we are able to connect with the fans and it's a free sport, which cycling is a lot better from that, whereas F1 is sometimes a bit inaccessible because now it's just getting a bit too crazy. But just, you know, it's a lot more interactive, and yeah, the coverage as well, like knowing the personalities. Like, I think F1 as a brand does well with that, whereas with cycling, the teams really have to kind of do it themselves. Yeah, there are a lot of things, but, you know, even being able to have more like circuit racing perhaps could help, just from a spectator point of view, because, you know, cycling isn't always the most spectator friendly sport. But yeah, there's a range of things, but there's a lot of things cycling's doing great as well.
Yeah, it is progressing, isn't it? Like you said, that's a frustrating sport to watch from the roadside. You spend hours waiting there and don't see very much unless you're on a climb. And also, like you said, there are a lot of parties in cycling that just want to keep hold of their small part of the pie, which doesn't help the larger pie to grow. Valtteri, you've spent some time in cycling circles. Is there anything that you'd say Formula One could gain from looking at pro cycling?
Sometimes teamwork. Like, I figured out that actually in road cycling, teammates work as a team, versus in Formula One, teammates sometimes you don't work as a team. It's the opposite, you know. Normally your teammate is your number one target and is the best reference for people to know your performance. So that's something that would be nice to have sometimes, but, you know, it's the name of the game. But yeah, I would say for me, what's been always really cool to see is how in cycling you actually, you know, work as a team. You have a plan, okay, that's the leader, and everyone works for the same goal. I mean, it happens sometimes in Formula One, but not, like I said, not every time. But in the end, I think both sports is a lot about teamwork, and nowadays cycling teams, they are getting bigger and bigger. I think the team spirit becomes more and more important if you want the good results, because it's all about fine margins in the end, and that's been the case in Formula One for a long time. And I've seen how important that team spirit and atmosphere is. Like when everyone gives absolutely everything, it makes such a difference versus 100 people giving 95%. So yeah, that team spirit, I think that's still the key.
Yeah, makes sense.
One other one. UCI to stop blocking innovation.
Yes.
Because too often, like, look at like what Jumbo did this year. Like all they did was just take all the data stuff outside, which is basically what F1 have. Like they have all their factories, and it's like, no, you can't do that. Oh, you create something like more aerodynamically advanced, and then UCI say, no, sorry, you can't do that. Like I think that's holding the sport back as well.
You'd say there's less stifling of innovation in Formula One?
Well, for you guys, it's okay, there's a lot of rules and regulations, but they allow, it's all about finding innovation and development of like what's the fastest thing, and doesn't get blocked immediately by the governing body.
Yeah, I agree on that, actually.
I'm going to move on to your collaboration with Canyon. You've been kind enough to host this for us today. Your collaboration must have started with the team many years ago.
Yeah, I'm the OG rider from Canyon SRAM.
Yeah.
Yeah, I started.
How many years have you been at the team?
Since the start, 2016. Yeah, so it was exciting. It was a new project that Canyon came to our team boss, Ronnie Lauka. It was in the period where I was already with the team before we became Canyon SRAM, which was a different entity, a different owner, but Ronnie was the director at the time. And we were going through a tough time, like we were struggling to have partners and stuff, and the team was on the brink of like, is it continuing or are we stopping? And then that's where Canyon came in, and then they wanted to create their own thing and took kind of the core group that we had from that squad and then created Canyon SRAM. And it's pretty cool to watch it develop, because if you look at the partners who are with us now, both obviously Canyon SRAM and all of our other team partners, many of them being there from the start, and that shows just how strong this team is. It's always been about looking outside the box, doing things a bit differently, like how can we innovate the sport, how can we get more community into the sport, get more women into the sport, and we've always done things differently. One of the first to create like a generation team or a development squad. The Zwift Academy, like it's been really fun, and a standalone women's team. That's also quite rare to be as big as we are as a standalone women's team without the support of like a male counterpart professional team.
Must also be nice to be in a team that every single year has the best kit.
Oh, absolutely.
Men's or women's.
Exactly.
That's
why I'm here, really.
And your collaboration with Canyon, Valtteri, I assume that kind of came through Tiffany.
Yeah, absolutely. I started to go to the races to support Tiffany and be around, and got to know Ronnie from the team, and obviously got my first Canyon bike thanks to Tiff's contacts, and I think naturally, I was always kind of promoting the brand anyway, and
so they didn't even need to collaborate with you.
don't say that. No, but then eventually, the brand just came to me that, okay, we got to do something. Like you are already putting us out there, getting great visibility, and we can see your passion for bikes, and let's do something. And I was sure, like for me, that's perfect. I love bikes. I love the brand. Happy to be an ambassador and spread the word globally for the brand.
This is his favorite cap.
It is my
Wears
favorite
it all
cap.
the time.
Like, honestly, I wear it like every day.
I hope you've got a few of them.
He
And
does
if you
now.
need a fresh one, I'm sure they can supply you one today.
I've got a few.
In terms of equipment, it sounds like when you first got into the Formula One world with Williams, that you spent a lot of time at their headquarters in the UK at every single department, getting to know how everything works. Are you similarly like that with bikes? Do you tinker away with everything on your Canyon bike?
Yeah, I do love the details.
Yeah.
I'm especially if I do like because I do sometimes some gravel races myself, and then the equipment needs to be like top notch. So I've been always interested about all the technical stuff, all the innovation, technology, and actually I studied to be a car mechanic. That was always my plan B if the racing doesn't work out.
There's still time.
True. Maybe next year. But I do love the details, and seeing the development of the bikes year by year, model by model, for me it's really, really cool.
Are we likely to see Valtteri fiddling with his saddle height midway through our group ride/race later?
That I would say he's not like OCD with. He's more like, oh, that could be more aero, or, you know. The tyre pressure is a bit, like even before I'm ready, he always is like pump the tyres. But mid-ride, he just gets on with it.
Okay.
Like you're not like really.
Yeah, I use a few different bikes in terms of sometimes on the Grail, sometimes on the Aeroad, sometimes on the Ultimate. So I'm not too fast jumping from one bike to another. So, yeah.
He's not like a typical cyclist.
We will double check tyre pressure for you,
please,
later on.
Thank you.
I mean, it might increase because it's hot outside and the bike's currently air conditioned.
It will about, maybe 3 psi on the right.
I had a feeling you'd know quite precisely what the increase would be. And you've designed a few of Valtteri's helmets, I understand.
I do all these helmets.
Can you tell us about them?
That one as well.
Yeah.
There we go.
Yep.
Yeah, taco. We like tacos every Tuesday, Taco Tuesday. Yeah, so design's always been a passion of mine. So when I finished school, I studied fashion design, but with the racing career, I never really could push through with it and wasn't able to complete the studies just because it's super hands-on. And yeah, so anyway, the cycling was going okay. And then through that, I started doing some cycling apparel. Attempted to do my own brand, but back then it was, again, challenging. It's always like ideas are great, but like having the time it's not possible. But then, I've always enjoyed doing things. And Valtteri then asked me when we first kind of got together to do his helmet. And I was like, okay, that's huge pressure because that's their identity. And I'd never done a racing helmet or anything. But I had a go at it and started with the Australia GP that never happened when COVID started. And kind of went from there, and I really enjoy it. It's like everything, anybody who's in the design department, it's about looking for inspiration, telling the story. And so we always have the season helmet, which that should be something just a bit more personal to him. So like this year we did the Northern Lights, because Finnish, the team has some green in there. There's like the Northern Star, which Finns are guided by, a few star constellations that you see in the north or from Finland. So all little things that connect. But then we have like the special editions, which you can choose what you want to do. You could do every race if you want, but we choose, last year we did maybe 10 races, but it just depends. And then I'm like, okay, what can we do to this place? So like if we take this one, like Mexico, we know Mexico, love tacos. So it's just very playful. It's a few little things from Mexico. There's some like Mexican prints, like Aztec prints. And I think I said, all I want is tacos. Because they came back to an interview he did. It was like with Max Verstappen.
I'm here for the tacos.
Yeah.
That was the theme for Mexico.
Yeah.
But look at the matching colors to the kit, Tiff's kit. It's pretty good.
Yeah.
Oh, it's not just pretty good. I had a look at a few of the designs actually online before I came over, because I'm not a Formula One person myself, but they do look fantastic.
Yeah. And I think because it doesn't come from traditional design racing background, I like just do things differently.
Yeah. Well, sometimes it needs somebody coming from the outside in to do things slightly differently in the first place, doesn't it? As somebody, like I said, that's not a huge, I don't know loads and loads about Formula One, I wondered if you could enlighten me, sort of talk to me like I'm a 10-year-old, about how things work between driver and engineer and technicians and aerodynamicists at a Formula One team. What's that interaction like? How much of a say do you have in the setup of the car, etc.?
Yeah, so the setup, like let's say if I take an example of the last weekend's yesterday's race in Belgium, the setup work starts from obviously learning from the previous events, what has been generally the right direction, what type of track it is, and we finalize normally the weekend starting setup in the simulator. That's what we do for every Grand Prix nowadays. So our simulator is at the factory in Switzerland, so go there, try all the different options with the setup. First we start is, what do they say, what is best in theory, and then we try to tune that, what actually works for me as well in terms of my driving style and feeling and my strengths or weaknesses. Then we go from there. Then we start the weekend, and between each session we have a chance to change the setup. Again, they look at all the data, they say, computer says this, but I say, no, it's this. It's always finding that right balance between theory and reality, and having that kind of car that you are comfortable at pushing to the limit and having that confidence. So yeah, quite often what the computer says, it might be faster on one lap, but you can't necessarily replicate it every lap if you're not comfortable with the car. You know, all it needs is a tiny mistake and you lose 1/10 of a second, which in our sport can be in qualifying many places. So it's normally during the weekend it's the race engineer. And in terms of the aero stuff, that all happens at the factory. And yeah, I'm not an aerodynamicist myself. All I can give as a feedback is how I feel that I could go faster in this corner. Example, if the back end of the car is really sensitive in certain parts, I just need to try and describe that as best as I can. And nowadays then it's up to the people at the factory in the wind tunnel to find a solution for that for the future.
Yeah, so it's a long old process, I would imagine.
It is, and lead times are big. You know, if I'm complaining about certain things now, maybe in 2-3 months we might have some new parts to try and help it. You know? So it's constantly like this. So
would you say you've become any more meticulous with your own bike equipment setup since meeting Valtteri? You know, cycling as a sport, less so now, but certainly in my era, traditionally was one where you used a piece of equipment because the good rider before you had used that same piece of equipment. There's obviously a lot more science and data behind it now, but have you become any more meticulous in any way?
Not overly. If anything, I just know more my feelings and stuff, and like we're fortunate that we do have so much, okay, not huge amounts, but we have a lot of options to choose from, you know, whether it's the Aeroad or it's the Ultimate or, you know, which wheel set you want to use, which gearing ratios you want to use. So from that aspect, for sure, you can relate a little bit, and I'll be like to the mechanics, okay, I want this for this setup. Like they will say, this is the fastest in theory, but I was like, well, for me as a bike rider, it doesn't work. So I guess it's a little bit the same, and I guess I take more confidence in what I want, whereas before I used to just take whatever they put there, or there was only one option before, like we didn't have, you know, so much to choose from. But I've never been a really anal bike rider in terms of like every little watt saving. I don't look at that because I'm more a rider on feeling.
Yeah, so not a huge amount of change, but there is so much more equipment choice now, isn't there?
Yeah, we are spoiled by that. And
yeah, it's great now, isn't it? Have you ever had any sort of heated discussions as to which sport is the hardest between the two to live and to train for?
not really.
I imagine they're both quite similar, are they, in terms of how much you have to put into it?
Yeah. They're just different.
Yeah, I mean, I think in both sports nowadays you got to commit early. You know, you need to be young to start. You're pretty much dedicating your childhood, teenage life to become something and to reach your goals. I think that's similar in the sports.
But like a race weekend on both sides is intense. Like, yes, they have a engine that helps them. Yeah. They're both probably mentally demanding. Like the amount of time they have to like talk to people 24/7, have people around 24/7.
I got to do more talking for sure.
Yeah.
Like there's way more talking than driving.
We can just go in the bus and hide and say, no, I don't want to talk to you. But
yeah.
Physically.
Well, I'm sorry about this.
No, this is fine.
More talking.
This is relaxed. Like, but you know, when it's a race weekend and you know, you've got
like,
all the stuff going on, it's sometimes quite a distraction.
Like for them, I would say, like compared to any sport in the world, they do the most off-bike, off-car things. You know, in the preparation when you want to be in the zone focus, like it's not possible for them. I'd say from that, as an athlete, it would be draining.
Yeah, and if you ask that question physically, for sure with a bike you can hurt yourself more if you do, you know, long races. Yeah, my longest gravel race was a bit over 6 hours, and yeah, I was pretty.
You did all right though, innit? I was looking at results.
Yeah, I've done some been okay.
He does okay.
But it's different fatigue. It's hard to explain. Like in the car, quite often it's the heat and the G-forces, and it just builds up lap after lap. But still, our race in maximum is 2 hours. So yeah, if you're
an
fit
intense
enough,
2 hours though. Again, in one of the podcasts I listened to, you talked about the 2 hours in the extreme heat of, was it Qatar or somewhere over in the Middle East? How intense that was. It was like doing a workout in a sauna was how you described it.
But he's a Finn and he likes a sauna, so
exactly.
Piece of cake.
Yeah. Not used to the heat though.
Yeah, normally in the sauna I'm naked, but in the race car I have to wear the fireproofs.
Yeah, so. Not an option to be naked. You segued quite nicely actually into gravel, which is what I wanted to talk to you about next, because you've both become very passionate about gravel and gravel racing for the past few seasons. How did that initial passion come about?
Again, that was because of Ronnie. It started, it was, well, already in 2019 I did my first gravel race, SPT Gravel, because Canyon was a major partner there. And we were going out for Tour of Colorado when it used to be there for the women. And basically the team were like, hey, Canyon would love you to go do this race to represent the brand, but you're not allowed to take it seriously. You're not allowed to do the long one. You're there just to have fun, basically. The focus is on Tour of Colorado. That was the strict, like, come on. Yeah, but they want us to do the short course. I was like, come on, we got to be there, last at least a bit longer. So and they were out there and had the whole team, which was cool. We had Eric Zabel. He basically became a domestique for the race. And, I was there like taking selfies, this, that. But I was like, oh, this is kind of fun, but just left nothing else of it. I was like, okay, back to road, business as usual. And then it was end of 2020, I was renegotiating the contract and Ronnie proposed the idea. Because I guess early in my career, I tried to push. I was like, can I do some mountain bike? Like, I'm a rider, I need different things. Like, if I do just road, like, I get bored. I always like to have different things to challenge myself. So I was trying to convince to do some mountain bike racing, but he didn't go for that. So then he proposed the idea of gravel because it was the early days. It was still very US based. It wasn't really in Europe, and he saw the potential in it, both for like the brands and for the team and for me. He saw it as like something new to challenge myself. It could benefit my road racing, and as a growing market, good for everybody to have a rider representing. So like, sure, sounds good. So then it kind of started like that, but it was like piecing it together. It was okay, going out there, finding the races. The first year was challenging because, as we said, all the races are in the US. So it's like going every month to the US for 200K plus races, a bit draining. So then it was picking and choosing what makes sense. But since then, obviously, we've seen the sport evolve like crazy, which is exciting. There's more in Europe. There's now obviously the World Championships. The face of the sport has changed a lot. Everybody talks about the spirit of gravel. It's like you go there, you have fun, you hang out, you race, but that's it. Whereas now you're really seeing the development into the products, like the level is going higher. There's now like 100% gravel athletes. But yeah, it's just kind of gone from there. And for me, I've enjoyed it because obviously the World Tour is super hard, super demanding. I still love it. I still love racing the biggest races, but it's nice to have the disconnect and then go to gravel. And although those races are equally as hard, mentally it's just a very different headspace. And yeah, it's that nice kind of break up that I can go do that and then go back and say, okay, let's go back to the road racing.
Valtteri talked quite a lot about what he learned over the course of his career of how to go about Formula One to enable him to have a longer career, as in not being 100% all of the time. Has that helped you, would you say, to start doing the gravel, to keep you motivated to have this amazingly long career you're already having?
Yeah, 100%, because for sure I've had, like everybody, ups and downs, roller coasters throughout my career, and it definitely, there was a period there where I was just kind of going through the motions, still racing, but I could feel the passion was kind of dying a little bit. And then now having the gravel, it has reigniting that. It's like the enjoyment comes back, and then when I come back to the road, there's extra energy and enthusiasm. And now these days, like my earlier career, I was the one going for the race results. Nowadays, I'm more often like either the team captain or just like the domestique for the team, which is great and satisfying, but it's different. Whereas going back to gravel, now I have the chance to win again. And it's like, having that feeling of like, okay, how can I work out how to win the bike race? It gives you that fire in the belly again to be like, yes, I can do this, instead of, okay, my finish line's at 50K into the race or whatever it might be. So it's that nice balance of going, being the dedicated teammate, and then going and racing for myself. So I get best of both worlds. Yeah,
it must be quite nice. I was actually looking at the gravel races that you've both done so far this year. It's amazing how well they fitted into the Formula One calendar. Yeah. It's almost like you've had some sort of influence over, well, I'm not going to say the Formula One calendar, but the cycling calendar. They fitted in quite well, haven't they? And
even better, this year, the Gravel Worlds, conveniently, F1 decided to put a break in September. Like, who would have thought?
I did look at that as well. I was like, there's something going on here.
Yeah, I know.
few bucks to Stefano.
It was only like until the weekend before Silverstone. So a few weeks ago, I was basically racing every weekend. It was either F1 or gravel. And been a busy calendar. And now, this weekend, no racing. No.
It took the mainstream media by storm when you did Unbound. Formula One driver burns 4,500 calories between Formula One races. They couldn't believe it.
And that also was conveniently 1 week before Canada. So it's like we had to be in North America.
This can't be by chance, I was thinking when I was looking at it the other day. What's the gravel riding like around where you live?
Well, which house?
Yeah, we're based in Monaco for long time now, and it's not great.
No.
Gravel
be
riding
honest.
is not great. It's too rocky. So
But-
road bikes there.
The gravel World Championships there are next year, so there's obviously something, but it's pretty chunky.
Yeah, to bring a mountain bike.
Yeah, but in Finland it's incredible.
Yeah,
So we go there where his family is.
and Australia.
And Australia, yeah. Australia has some, apparently you should do some races there.
I was going to say, yeah, we can promote Finland Gravel and the one you've got in Adelaide as well. They do look like fantastic events, though. It's almost enough to inspire me to get back on the bike myself.
Yeah, you should.
Maybe after today's race, I'll get back into
you
it.
get the
Yeah.
spark again.
I was slightly jealous / annoyed early on this year that you became the first person to be seen publicly with the brand new prototype Canyon Aeroad. How on earth
Yeah, I
did
was
you
also
manage
jealous too.
that? Yeah. I mean, this is obviously a very close relationship you've already built up with the company. How did you manage that?
Yeah, I've been really enjoying working with the company and doing my part, like I said, as an ambassador and obviously trying to promote the brand. But for me, it's just natural because I like the brand, I like the bikes anyway, and yeah, we have great relationship and still continuing. So, and of course, if I can give any insights anytime to the brand in terms of whether it's about technology and stuff like that, I'm always up for it.
Got any more secret bikes back at home about to be revealed?
No, I think that was the latest and greatest.
Until the next one.
Yeah.
And first impressions of the new Aeroad for both of you?
Beautiful. I really love it. It's just another step from the previous Aeroad. For me, mainly the weight, but also just like small details, like like in the fork. I never liked that on the other end there was this hole. Like, why? Now it's
So you
it's
could put it
gone.
on the stand to wash your bike.
Yeah, but that's
But he
mechanics
doesn't wash his
issue.
bike.
Yeah,
I wash it.
but small details. It's just more refined, and yeah, I love it.
And-
Especially with the new SRAM stuff, those together. So
Yeah. I've still not got to ride one, but I think I'm going to be
Today?
on one later on.
Yeah, there should be some lying around. I saw a couple in the showroom.
I was really annoying actually for the mechanic because I run right brake front.
Ah, yeah,
I've
you're
asked
like
if it's fine.
Australians.
I mean, I think I'd get away with left brake front if I was on my own, but what I don't want to do is crash either of you or anyone else that we're out riding with.
I'll make sure that I'm in ahead of you then.
Okay,
Right,
yeah.
so-
I'm sure that will happen.
Because as Australians, we got forced to go to the opposite way as soon as we came to Europe,
I did.
even as a national team.
I did. So, yeah, I tried it and I found that, but this is when I was about 23, so I'd had obviously a lot of years of right brake front. I did try it because I thought it's going to be, the mechanics hate you, don't they? If the brakes are the wrong way around, it's just such a hassle for them. I did try it thinking I'll be less of a hassle for mechanics, and I was fine until a panic situation, at which point you realise that you weight the braking instinctively on one
Yeah.
side, so I skidded all over. I also once gave a teammate of mine, the late Chavi Tondo, my bike because we were the same size at the Giro d'Italia, and I forgot to tell him the brakes were the wrong way round. So not long after I gave him my bike, I saw him in the ditch on the side of the road. So yeah, I should have learnt from that. Just finally, the Canyon campaign for the brand new Aeroad is called Speed Dreams. What speed dreams do you both have left?
To crack 100k on the bike, 100k an hour. I still haven't done that. I got very close. I've done 98 when I was up at Lake Tahoe once, but I still want to do 100k.
You need to do it soon because I found that in the last few years, it's the first time I've started to get slightly fearful over a certain speed.
Oh, yeah?
I never had it when I was racing. I think it's when I started riding with my son a little bit more, and he was wanting to go faster and faster down descents. And I think seeing somebody younger that's your own blood in front of you, you start thinking, ooh, I hope I've done his wheels up. Okay. Any speed dreams left for you, Valtteri?
I think same actually. I've still been just under 100k with the bike, so an hour when I cracked that. But it's been super refreshing this year actually getting podiums in some sport. It's been a while in F1, so I don't know. I just wanna keep doing the gravel races because for me it's just so refreshing, challenging myself and me being the engine, having less politics in cycling than F1. So it's just great balancing act. So I'll keep chasing the gravel events and some success if there's opportunities.
Where you both need to go is Austria or Switzerland. in terms of getting over 100k. I've asked a few pro cyclists for GCN over the years, what's the fastest speed you've got to? And the ones that are 110, 120, always in those two countries. Just
And
big,
the US,
wide, quite...
and the US though.
Yeah?
Tour of California, they would always do it. Yeah, because you always get big roads, big bunches.
That is the one point where you do look down at your bike and think, hope nothing goes wrong.
Exactly.
Sort of speed.
But that's the thrill of it.
Yeah.
Well,
the time I did, I was in super tuck, but I had, I think, 404 wheels, and I just started to get speed wobbles. I came out the tuck and I saw 98. I was like...
Yeah, you don't want anything to go wrong at that point. It's been fantastic, Tiffany, to see you again after 11 years. Lovely to meet you, Valtteri. I'll see you at the end of the ride when I catch you back up again. But thank you so much, both of you, for coming along to Canyon's HQ today. A round of applause, please, everybody. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks.
I always claim like this climb, if you squint, this is like German positivity, right? If you squint, you can convince yourself you're in destiny. Some of the time. I want to tell myself.
Hey Valtteri, you got a rope, don't you? A rope to carry me up the hill?
Hold your hand.
Yeah, I'll hold it. I've lost it. I've lost it. Okay, I've got it.
Is this manual DRS?
Ah! He's too strong.